I wanted to make this video real quick just to show what's possible with the numbers in terms of how much money you can make per month running meta ads if you have a fencing company, a deck installation company, or window installation company. And I just wanted to show exactly what you need in order to see numbers like an added $30,000 a month in revenue from only $1,500 in ad spend, which will translate roughly into about $13,000 worth of profit. And I'll show you exactly how all of the numbers work out and how this makes sense. Sometimes when I get on calls with people and I tell them they need to spend $1,500 a month on ads, they get really scared and they shy away from it and they say, well, that's a lot of money. But relatively speaking, it's the value that you're getting from the money that you spend that really counts. And I'll go in here, I'll break down all of the numbers so you can really understand where this money is going and how it's turning into potentially tens of thousands of dollars in profit for you per month. So you can start to get really exciting results if you set everything up right and you do it right. In one of my last videos, I showed you how you can set up this whole framework, and I just wanted to make a video to show what would happen if you did everything the right way. And we have the best case scenario, the average scenario, and the worst case scenario to show the numbers that you can expect on a month running ads with obviously some variables. So all you have to do is just plug in your variables into this sheet here, and you can kind of get a guess for what kind of return you're going to see on the month when running ads. So typically when we start with people, we advise a $50 a day budget just because it's kind of the minimum that you need in order to let Meta and its algorithm do its thing to figure out who to show your videos to and how to optimize your campaign. Because if you're spending less than that, your campaign is never really going to get optimized. So you're going to be spending money on an unoptimized campaign. And you just don't want that to happen. It's just going to take longer and you're going to spend more money and it's just not going to be worth it. So you want to make sure you have a minimum budget of around $1,200 to $1,500, obviously depending a little bit on your niche, but this is a general rule of thumb. So I showed you how to set up all the creatives in the last video. I showed you how to funnel people to a booking page. I showed you all the booking percentages and where you want to be in order to get people scheduled and booked so you can get paid. And this will be the results, and we're going to go through the variables right now. So we put in a $1,500 ad budget and we put in a 35% profit margin. So obviously, if your margins are higher, these numbers will be better. If your margins are lower, say 20%, then these numbers down here are all going to be lower. But typically, it's around, the average is like 30 to 40%. So we just go 35%. And we're going to go now to the average job size. So in our ads, what we're selling, if someone does book and if someone does pay, what's the average amount of money they're going to pay? So for a new fence, it could be anywhere from $3,500 to $13,000, just depending on who you're selling to and who your ads are trying to target. So for this, we just put a safe number in the middle at 5,500 as the average job value. So now we're going to go down here and we're going to look at the cost per lead. So typically the results that we've been seeing is anywhere between $20 and $100. Now, if your ads start to tip over this amount, you would want to just turn the ads off and not let it run anymore so you didn't risk any profit. But the good thing about this business model is you can spend a lot of money on the ads and you can even be getting high cost per leads and it can still be profitable, and I'll show you just how that works. Just to skip to the end real quick, just to give you a preview of the numbers we're looking at. So in the best case scenario, the total revenue generated in 1 month from $1,500 in ads ended up being $136,000 in revenue. And so at a 35% profit margin, that's $48,000 profit from $1,500 in ads, which is a 32x return. So now you can kind of see why people run meta ads so much and why there are so many people like me that are trying to help you with your ads, and we position ourselves as experts, because if you do this stuff right and you implement the system I talked about in my last video, this is the best case scenario of results that you can get. $1,500 in ad spend and $48,000 in profit. So if you want to see if you have good creatives and it's working, you can bump the ad spend up to $3,000, and then you're getting $96,000 in profit on the month. But obviously, that's the best case scenario. We want to just look at the variables and look to see how we can get this. So let's set this back to 1,500, 35% profit margins. So if you spend $1,500 and your cost per lead is 20, that comes out to be 75 leads. And if you have a decent booking rate, so people will fill out your form and then you can call them to get them booked for an appointment. If you get a 60% of those people to book an appointment to get an estimate, then you have 45 estimates, and then your cost per appointment will end up being $33. And then if you have a close rate of 55%, so you close 55% of these 45 appointments, so you see 45 appointments, 55% is 25 clients signed. 25 times 5,500 equals $136,000, and then $136,000 times your profit margin equals that $48,000 in profit. Now, don't get me wrong, this is difficult to do. No one is just going to turn on your ads and you're just going to randomly get a 32 times return. You really need to set this stuff up properly and do it right. Otherwise, you can see you're going to start burning money. So if you haven't seen my last video of how to set it up right, you should really go and watch that. But let's take a look at the average kind of result that you can maybe expect. Obviously, depending on your numbers, none of this is guaranteed. If you have only a 20% margin, these numbers are going to look a little less crazy. So that will only end up being $7,700 in profit in the average scenario, as opposed to 13,000. So literally half. So it's going to depend a lot on your business. The ads can do everything that they can to get you these leads and to get you these appointments at a decent cost, but it really comes down to you and your close rate, and your systems on nurturing these clients, and your margins and how you handle the jobs and how effectively you can book them in and get the jobs done sooner, because you want to get these jobs done in the month or at least soon after you get the lead, so you can manage your cash flow that way. So look at this. If we have a $35 cost per lead, which is about average, that will end up being 42 leads. If 40% of them end up booking an estimate, so less than the golden scenario, if 40% of them end up booking an estimate, you'll get 17 estimates, and then the cost per estimate will be $88. And then if you have a close rate lower than the 55% and you have a 40% close rate, then you'll end up with these numbers here. $37,000 in revenue generated at a 35% margin is going to be $13,000. And now let's look at the worst case scenario here. So if the ads are not effective, this number is going to be higher. So if this number is too high, it's likely the ad creative or your offer that is wrong. So you can kind of use this as like a health report of your ad campaign. So if these numbers are good, like if you're getting $35 leads, but maybe your close rate is 10%, and then you're only making $3,800, then you can kind of diagnose with this sheet what the actual issue is. So you see that you're getting a good cost per lead, you're getting a good number of leads, you're getting good bookings, but they're not closing. So you know you need to focus on your close rate. So that's kind of why I like this sheet too. But in the worst case scenario, if your ads are not performing well, then you're going to end up in this scenario with the $75 leads, and then you're going to get 20 leads. If your appointment booking rate goes down to 25% as opposed to the 40%, then you're only going to have 5 appointments. Your cost per estimate is going to be $300. And then if your close rate is only 30%, then these will be the numbers that you're left with. So you're going to get 5 estimates. You're only going to close 2 of them. That's only going to be $8,000 in revenue, and it's going to be $3,000 in profit, but likely the way that this campaign is going, it might be trending towards unprofitable. And this is still healthy. Like, you're still getting a 2.5 times return, but it doesn't leave much more wiggle room. So you'll just have to be conscious, and you're just going to have to monitor it. So we're going to have to try and get all of these numbers up. Maybe we can try and get the booking rate up. So we have a funnel to funnel people to get booked, to get estimates. So what if we got this number up to 40%? Let's see what it would look like. Still didn't change much. We'd have to get it up to 50% for it to really start to change. So that number, it's not going to make as much of a difference. We'd be better off probably just getting this number down, because it's going to take a lot of effort to get this up. So that's really what this sheet is for. It's just to give you a good health report on your ads, your ad funnel, and your closing rates, so you can look at where the problems are and what you need to improve on in order to hit the profit per month from these ads that you want to get to. So you can tweak the numbers around in this sheet and then figure out what you need to tweak in your campaign in order to get that. So maybe your goal is to get your cost per lead down, and then your close rate is good, your booking rate is good, and then you're getting the profit that you want. So I just wanted to show you guys this, because my last video I went over how to set it up, and I just wanted to show you how to maintain it, how to look after it, and what results you can get. Obviously, all depending on your numbers, your business, how well you're doing the jobs, how well you're closing them, how well you're able to nurture the leads. Getting the leads in the door is really only half of it. The rest of it really falls down on completing the jobs and closing them. So that's what this sheet is for. Again, none of these numbers are ever guaranteed when working with us or when you're running them by yourself, because you really have to make sure that you're doing all of the things and setting everything up properly in order for this sheet to be true. So you're going to want to look at my last video to make sure you've set everything up right. And if you set it up that way, then the numbers in this sheet will be accurate. If you kind of like skip around, or things are broken in your funnel, or maybe your ad creatives aren't good enough, maybe there aren't enough of them, then you're also going to want to have to look at that. So that's what we do here. If you need help with any of this stuff, of course, you can always just send me a message or leave a comment on this video. And I wish you guys good luck with all this stuff. It's really exciting when you start turning on meta ads for your company. And when you're ready to grow, you also want to make sure that you have the ability to fulfill all of these jobs, because if this goes well, you got to be ready to take on 7 more jobs in that month. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, just send me a message.